I was just denied a rental application for a small one-bedroom apartment. The reason cited by the property manager was a derogatory mark on my credit report and a debt-to-income ratio that was, in her words, alarming. The irony is that I've never missed a payment on a bill in my entire adult life. My own finances are meticulous. The debt that is destroying my name belongs to a gleaming black BMW that I have never once been allowed to drive. It legally belongs to me, but it is my brother Kyle's car, a luxury item my family forced me to procure for him, and now I'm the one paying the price for his image. For as long as I can remember, my brother and I were cast in very specific roles. I was the responsible one. From a young age, I was praised for being a diligent saver, for my good grades, and for my cautious, pragmatic approach to life. I started building my credit the moment I turned 18, proud of every point I gained. Kyle, on the other hand, was the charmer, the risk-taker. His financial recklessness was legendary within our family, but it was always framed as a charming quirk. He'd rack up credit card debt or get into minor trouble, and my parents would always be there to bail him out with a fond sigh. The problem began when Kyle, who worked a middling entry-level sales job, decided he absolutely needed a BMW 3 Series. It wasn't about transportation, it was about projecting success. Or he had convinced himself, and more importantly our parents, that driving a luxury car would magically open doors to wealthier clients and elevate his entire career. It was a fantasy, of course, but one my parents were eager to buy into. The image of their son driving a fancy car was deeply important to them, a status symbol for the entire family to enjoy by proxy. They saw it as an investment in his, and therefore their, reputation. Predictably, Kyle's ambition was shot down by every financial institution he approached. With a credit score in the low 500s and virtually no savings, he was denied a car loan from 7 different banks. He was furious, but my parents were an even bigger force of nature. They were personally offended that the banks couldn't see their son's potential. Since they couldn't co-sign due to their own complicated finances, my father turned his gaze to the only person in the family with a pristine financial record and an 800+ credit score, me. I was about to become the unwilling key to my brother's luxury car dreams. My father sat me down one evening for a talk. He laid out the situation as if it were a brilliant business proposal. He explained that Kyle needed the car, and I had the credit to get it. He asked me to co-sign the loan. I refused immediately and calmly. I explained the immense financial risk, how co-signing meant I was equally responsible for the debt, and that given Kyle's history, it was a terrible idea. I thought my logical explanation would be the end of it. Instead, it was the opening salvo in a war of emotional attrition that would last for weeks. My refusal was not seen as a sensible financial decision, but as a profound act of familial betrayal. My father's tone shifted from asking to demanding. He told me that family helps family no matter what. He said I was being selfish and that my obsession with a silly little number, my credit score, was actively holding my brother back from his potential success. He painted a picture where my signature on a piece of paper was the only thing standing between Kyle and a brilliant future. My refusal was framed as me actively wishing for my brother to fail, which was a deeply hurtful accusation. My mother joined the campaign with equal fervor. She would sigh dramatically whenever I entered a room and talk about how she didn't raise her children to be so unsupportive of one another. They began a coordinated campaign of guilt-tripping. Every family dinner became a forum on my selfishness. They would reminisce about all the sacrifices they had made for me over the years, implying that I owed them this one small favor. They isolated me, making me feel like a cold-hearted outsider who didn't understand the meaning of loyalty. The pressure was constant and came from all sides. The emotional blackmail became almost unbearable. They promised me on their lives that Kyle would make every single payment on time. They swore they would personally cover any payment he missed. My father even typed up a ridiculous one-page contract on his computer, stating they would be responsible and had us all sign it. It was a worthless document with no legal standing, a theatrical prop designed to wear down my resistance. It was insulting, but it showed the lengths they were willing to go to manipulate me into compliance. They were not listening to my reasons, they were simply trying to find a way to manage my objections. After a month of this relentless psychological warfare, I was emotionally exhausted. The atmosphere at home was toxic. The silent treatments, the disappointed looks, the constant accusations. It was too much. I just wanted it to stop. In a moment of profound weakness, I gave in. I told my father I would do it, just to have peace in the family again. His face lit up, and the coldness he'd shown me for weeks instantly vanished. He hugged me and told me he knew I'd come around and do the right thing for the family. In that moment, I didn't feel like a good daughter. I felt like a fool. The trip to the car dealership was a surreal experience. Kyle was buzzing with excitement, unable to stop talking about the car's features. My father was the proud patriarch, overseeing the transaction. I was silent, a knot of dread tightening in my stomach. The finance manager, a kind-looking older woman, kept glancing at me with a sympathetic expression as she went over the loan documents. She made a point of explaining the co-signer's legal obligations very clearly, almost as if she were trying to give me one last chance to back out. But with my father and brother watching me, I felt trapped. I picked up the pen and signed my financial future away. For the first 2 months, everything seemed fine. The payments were made on time, and my parents acted as if our family had achieved a great victory. Kyle loved his new car, constantly posting pictures of it on social media. He would take his friends for drives, basking in the glow of his new status symbol. He treated me with a distant politeness, as if the massive favor I had done him was already old news. I tried to convince myself that I had worried for nothing, that maybe this time he would actually be responsible. I clung to a fragile hope that this wouldn't end in disaster. On the 3rd month, the first notification arrived. It was an email from the bank with the subject line, "Your auto loan payment is overdue." My heart sank. I immediately called Kyle. He was breezy and dismissive, claiming he had just been super busy and forgot. He promised he would take care of it the next day. A week later, I got another notice, this time with a late fee added. I called him again, my voice trembling with anger. He told me to relax and that he had some unexpected expenses come up. He made it clear that my anxiety was an annoyance to him. The overdue notices became a monthly occurrence. My calls to Kyle started going to voicemail, and my worried texts were left unanswered. He was actively avoiding me. I was getting multiple calls a day from the bank's collection department, asking when the payment would be made. I was forced to lie, to make excuses for him, just to get them off the phone. The stress was immense. The pristine credit score I had spent years building began to tumble, losing dozens of points with each missed payment that was reported to the credit bureaus. I felt completely powerless. I went to my parents, armed with a stack of overdue bills and screenshots of my plummeting credit score. I showed them the proof that Kyle was not paying and that their promise to me had been broken. I expected them to be horrified, to intervene immediately. Instead, they looked irritated, as if I were bringing an inconvenient problem to their doorstep. My father sighed and said, "We'll talk to him." But their talk was useless. Nothing changed. Their guarantee to cover any missed payments was revealed to be the hollow lie I had always suspected it was. Their empty promises to handle it were just another form of gaslighting. They had no intention of forcing Kyle to pay or of paying the bill themselves. They wanted me to absorb the consequences quietly. When I pressed them, their excuses for Kyle became more and more absurd. They said he was under a lot of pressure at his new job and that the high cost of insurance for the car was more than he expected. They told me I needed to be more patient and understanding. They were asking me to be understanding about the destruction of my own financial well-being to protect my brother's feelings. I finally had a massive confrontation with Kyle. I cornered him in the driveway as he was polishing his precious BMW. He had the audacity to get angry at me. He accused me of harassing him and of not understanding the financial pressures he was under. He whined about the cost of gas and insurance as if he were the victim. He showed absolutely no remorse for what he was doing to my credit. To him, the consequences I was facing were invisible, abstract, and certainly less important than his immediate wants. He was still driving the car every day, enjoying all the benefits, while I was shouldering all the risk and damage. The damage is now catastrophic. My credit score has fallen by over 200 points. It's now considered poor. I was recently turned down for a credit card I applied for to earn travel miles, but the denial of the apartment was the real wake-up call. The black mark from this defaulted loan will stay on my record for 7 years. This single act of forced generosity has crippled my ability to make major life moves. I can't rent a decent apartment, I can't qualify for a mortgage, and I can't even get a loan for a modest car for myself. My family's justification for this whole mess is the most painful part. They genuinely believed they were doing the right thing. In their worldview, my stability was a resource to be used to prop up my brother's instability. They see his happiness and his image as the ultimate family goal, and my financial security was a small, acceptable sacrifice to achieve that. They don't see that they didn't just burden me with a loan. They stole my financial independence, my good name, and my future opportunities. They put his wants before my fundamental needs. Now, the bank has started proceedings to repossess the car. This sounds like a solution, but it isn't. Once they seize the car and sell it at auction, I will still be legally responsible for the difference between the sale price and the remaining loan balance, which will likely be tens of thousands of dollars. The repossession itself will be another devastating blow to my credit report. There is no clean exit from this. I am trapped in a financial prison that my parents and brother built for me, and they are holding the key, refusing to let me out. I look at them now, and I feel like I don't know them at all. How could they knowingly and deliberately sacrifice their daughter's financial future for a material object for their son? Was their love for me always this conditional? Was I only valued for my reliability, for being the family's safety net? The trust is completely shattered. They still want me to come to Sunday dinner and pretend that everything is normal, to ignore the debt collector calls and the fact that my life is in financial ruins because of them. So I am writing this to ask for advice from strangers, because I can no longer trust the people closest to me. I am tethered to a massive debt that is not mine, and my credit is destroyed for the foreseeable future. Is there any legal recourse when you've been emotionally blackmailed into co-signing a loan? Or is my only option to declare bankruptcy, to get out from under this debt, and in the process, sever all ties with the family who led me to this point? I feel like I'm drowning, and my own family is the one holding my head underwater.